Thank you.
It's Kalyani, Broken Open. I love it. Such a great song. It's a mature spiritual theme, as I say. Yes. Mature elements, theme elements, warning with theme elements. Some things will happen in your spiritual life that will require you to grow up, right? I won't grow up. I don't want to be a spiritual adult. I want to be a child of God. But we need to become adults of God. We need to become spiritually mature. Some of us. But all of this is optional. But what it comes down to is a day will come when you find yourself on the floor, either physically or metaphorically, and you realize that something needs to change. And you've changed everyone you can out there. You've gone through a litany of the family and all of your coworkers and everyone that you think you could, bend them, shape them any way you want them, and you're done. And you've cashed the check that the world can offer. And you've got that, and then you realize you're still not happy, and that can break you open. It can bring you to your knees, figuratively, maybe literally. And it asks a more important question. It begs a question. And the question is, what do I need to see? What do I need to know? What do I need to be revealed so that I can live more successfully, more happily, more peacefully in life? And that's a sobering moment, right? But it's an important one. It's the one that it really means coming to yourself. It's about really just taking ownership for how we are the gatekeepers for what we're seeking in life. We are the gatekeepers for the experience, and we need to be inside working with that which affects our experience, more so than we need to be out here trying to repaint the landscape. So, anyway, you've heard that before. Today we're going to talk about an aspect of that called Know Your Mind, Change Your Life. And of course, the first reaction a lot of people would have to that, know your mind, because of course I know my mind. I live with it 24/7. I know my mind. But maybe subtle, but most of us don't. We don't know our mind. Most of the time we're occupied by our thoughts. We're immersed in our thinking. We're not actually observing them. And we'll talk a lot about that today. It's moving from just being in the immersion of life, sort of, living through your mind, and becoming aware of how what's going on in the mind is really coloring your world and affecting your beliefs and affecting your life. So I was thinking this morning about Halloween a little bit. Not exactly my favorite holiday, but it was on my mind anyway. And the metaphor around Halloween is you have a myriad of characters who show up at your door on Halloween night, and some of them are pleasant and you enjoy seeing them, and others are not so pleasant, and you have a adverse reaction to them perhaps. But the good news is that they don't stay very long. If you treat them well, they'll go away relatively quickly. And so I thought, something like that goes on in our head. We have voices that show up in our head. And some of them are agreeable characters, agreeable voices that we like. And then there's those that we don't like. And how we deal with those voices determines, in a sense, whether they run the show or not for us. And so we're going to talk about that. There's one voice, though, that we call the voice of insanity, which is just sort of a chronic, off-the-rails kind of complaining, whiny voice. Yeah. So I've tapped into some of your minds over the week, and I have recordings of some of these voices. And so if I can find my Yes. So the voice of insanity, what might that sound like, do you suppose?
Well, this kind of looks like it might just look like an okay day for other people. For me, it looks bad as yesterday was, and yesterday really sucked. First of all, I'm probably going to be late, and everyone will notice that I'm late, and since they hate me anyway, they will just ignore me. And when this business starts to tank, and I know it's going to happen any day now, I saw it on the news last night, and I'm sure I will be the one that gets fired. Jeez, this pain in my side is getting worse. That's okay. I'm pretty sure it's cancer, and I probably won't last long anyway. And I won't have any money, so I'll have to spend my last lonely hours at my mother's house. Oh, I was supposed to call her last night, and I forgot. She's going to hate me now. I'm such a rotten daughter. I can't call her now. I'm so late. Where are my keys? Why does everything bad happen to me?
Familiar to anybody? No, you're not owning that voice. Okay, well, let's see if this human being would awaken just a little bit and see if that changes anything.
What a beautiful day.
Well, I mean, it kind of looks like an okay day for other people. For me, it will probably be as bad as yesterday was, and yesterday really sucked.
Well, no, that's an exaggeration. Nothing really terrible happened. It had some good points. A good lunch with friends, I found a parking space when I needed it, and I have a date this weekend, and that's kind of amazing. They say at Unity, if I focus on the good, more good will appear. I think I'll try that.
But look at the time! I'm probably going to be late again. So much for focusing on the good.
But I need to remember it's all in divine order. I don't need to stress about it. I just need to focus on the good. I need to center and try those meditation things they talk about at Unity. I'll just focus on my breathing.
I don't feel a thing. It is not working, and now I am later than ever. What's that feeling in my back? I bet it's spinal cancer, like I saw in Grey's Anatomy last night. Really gruesome.
I am whole and perfect child of God. I do not inherit sickness. I am whole and well and free.
Except for that pain in my back, and my head is pounding trying to keep out all these thoughts. Meditation does not work for me. I should just give it up and stay away from those crackpots at Unity. Did I pay my electric bill?
I do not choose to let the negative thoughts ruin my day. I affirm health and wholeness and perfect order in my life now.
Yeah, whatever. Enough with meditation. I gotta go.
I feel calmer and more relaxed. I choose to go with the flow and let the day unfold perfectly. I think loving thoughts and expect loving results.
Yeah, maybe. But I'll drive.
Okay, better, but that's not the now effect exactly that we're looking for. You know, we spend a lot of time trying to strengthen this awakened, more enlightened voice, and we hope that maybe we can shout out and dominate, you know, the less awakened voice, the voice of insanity. But that's better, but it's still dualistic. We want to have we don't want to go to that kind of moral kind of religion where we condemn and we judge in order to hopefully rise to a greater experience or a greater awareness of who we are. So perhaps there's another voice in there somewhere. Let's see.
What a beautiful day.
Well, it looks kind of like it might be an okay day for other people, but for me, it'll probably be as bad as yesterday, and yesterday really sucked.
If that is my choice, that will be my experience, and there will be rich lessons to learn through that choice.
That's an exaggeration. Nothing really terrible happened, and it did have its good points. They say in Unity that if I focus on the good, then good will happen. I think I'll try that.
If that is my choice, then that will be my experience, and there will be rich lessons to learn through that choice.
Oh, but look at the time! I'm probably going to be late again. So much for focusing on the good.
Remember, it's all in divine order. No need to stress about it. That won't help at all. In fact, I think I'll take a minute to center, try those meditation tools they talk about in Unity. I'll just focus on my breathing.
I already have and already am all that I might seek in meditation. If meditation helps me to know that, it is a good choice.
I don't feel a thing. Geez, I can't do anything right. Now I'm later than ever. What is that funny pain in my back?
I am a whole and perfect child of God. I do not inherit sickness. I am whole and well and free.
And I am getting a headache trying to keep out all these thoughts.
Why expend energy trying to keep them out? Embrace them, welcome them, and choose among them. That is the essence of the human experience.
I do not choose to let negative thoughts create my day. I affirm health and wholeness and perfect order in my life right now.
There is no need to strain or struggle to affirm these things or to force the human self to believe them. They are simply the truth. It is all part of the great I am.
Yeah, whatever. Enough with meditation. I've got to go.
But I do feel calmer, more relaxed. I choose to go with the flow and allow the day to unfold. I think loving thoughts and I expect loving results. I claim a great day.
And yet the day is not good and nor bad. It is interesting. It is filled with creative opportunities, and the spirit of being expresses through both ego voices, as a unique human being as me, as the great I am.
Okay, fine.
I'm going to bring these ladies out here in a minute. What this is about for us is to understand that it isn't one voice is better than the other voice. We all have these voices in our head. And what you and I are trying to do is we're trying to find some way to have a grand enough sense of ourselves, a holistic enough understanding, and an embracing energy so that we can be with all that arises in our life. Just as you can't look at your life pathologically and succeed spiritually by saying, I'm going to point, I'm going to get rid of this and get rid of that person. You can't do that about those aspects of yourself either. They need love and attention. That doesn't mean that you dig a deeper track in your brain so that you repeat the things that are not useful and helpful to you. But it does mean that as they arise, you greet them as you would sort of an errant child who is just looking for attention, and you give that attention, and then they tend to calm down, and they're not running your life anymore. So let's bring out our three voices here. Here they are. There's January, Janelle, and Jennifer, the three J's. Yes. Well done, well done. Thank you so much for making it fun for us this morning and doing it so well. We appreciate it. Yes. So the voices in the head. Has anyone ever been successful in shouting them down? Has that ever worked for anyone? Oh, you have. Okay, good. And it never pops up again, or does it pop up again? It pops up again, yeah. So it's kind of like, get thee behind me, kind of that kind of energy. And there is an increasing, I think, subtle path that many of us are being drawn to that is holistic in the sense that we don't tend to look at life as being dualistic, but we think that all of it sort of lives, the spirit, it lives through all of this. And as it arises and emerges and takes different forms, then we get to decide what we want to dance with, what we want to embrace, what we want to hold on to, what we want to release. So if we don't live a life where we're becoming aware of how the mind is working, then oftentimes it will run our life and we'll become like on autopilot. Does anyone relate to that? Where you're just sort of going through your life and you're a human doing, and you have very little awareness. So I wanted to share with you from the book, this from the Now Effect. Tim Ryan, who is a congressman from Ohio, he actually wrote a book called A Mindful Nation. And he had not experienced a meditative practice. He was not doing any kind of meditative practice. He had read about it, but he hadn't done it. And he decided when his life was completely kind of off the rails, out of control, to check himself into a long retreat. So 3 days into a retreat, he spent 36 hours in silence. And he said, This is what he said. I started to realize that I was not my thoughts. I was not my thoughts. I had read about this in a book, but for the first time, I was actually experiencing a separation between my awareness and the thoughts that were running through my head. So that doesn't typically happen when we're not conscious. I saw the movie, he said, I saw the same movie playing over and over again as he was observing, but I wasn't participating. I was just watching. And as I continued to do this for the first time in a very long time, my body began to relax. And my head loosened up. And I felt like everything was going to be okay. Somebody be able to get me some water? Someone in the back, maybe? A cup of water? Thanks. So that's the key, is not letting our thoughts run our life. And the only way we can do this is we have to find some sense of who we are that is not identified with the effects, with the me. Thank you so much. To your health. I even have a water shelf here. Never used it before. There's a first for everything. So, you've heard this before, and I kind of did this at the end of the service, the last service, but I ended up going way over. In respect for your time, which I let get away from me in the first service, I want to do this now. So this is the idea of beginning to understand who you are from who you think you are. Is anyone interested in that? We're gonna break it down. Okay. Separate what you're not from what you really are. If we don't do that, we remain lost. The self, the real self, is spiritual. The one who is watching is the gateway to spirituality. That's what all the great teachers have said. It's the self that has the grand view is the one that is connected, is closer to your true self, to your spiritual self. If you continue to get involved with the mind in an unconscious way, spiritual growth simply cannot take place. If we're lost in the mind, we're lost. If we're identified with the mind, we're lost. If we're identified with the body, we're lost. If we're identified with our work, we're lost. Spiritually, you may be doing fine in the world, but if you really want to do like what Tim Ryan did, you wanted to have a sense of a grander view, something holistic, something that encompasses all of life and gives you a sense of peace and wholeness and well-being, then we have to find a different perspective on self than the unconscious identification with form and position and possession and acquisition and accomplishment. So when I say I am, it is the I observing a me. If I say I am a body, I am a man, I am a minister, there is an I that is defining or describing some other entity called me, called man. But we're not interested in the object of that observation, which is man, minister, etc. We're interested in the subject, the subjective I, the one that is observing. And can we know that I? That I? Can we know that I? It's a tricky one. It's often been said, can the knife cut itself? Can the tooth bite itself? Can the eye see itself? And can the I know itself? What is this I that is always in the capacity of observing, always know. It's the all-knowing I. Whatever has happened in your life, there's been an I, sort of an eyewitness. And it's not the one that went through the divorce and the cancer and graduated with honors. It's not the one that went through loss and pain and prideful moments and great accomplishments. But it was the one that was there. And that's what we're interested in. And that's what we want to identify with, because that I is the one that will no longer allow us to go to sleep. And to go to sleep means that we would become identified with who we're not. And how often do we do that? Every time I hear of someone who has a terminal illness, or I do a memorial service, I think, I hope that person got that sense of I, so that they don't think that this is it. And I say that for me too. And of course, we think we're our thoughts. Boy, don't we ever. But our thoughts are not facts. That ought to be up in bold letters. Thoughts are not facts. Can you get that? But don't we think they are? They're just mental constructs of a very creative mind that never ceases to come up with new descriptors, or has 1,000 and a million opinions about everything, and it will not be silenced. You know, all those caveats you got, well, everything you think doesn't have to be said, but tell that to your mind. Oh yeah, anything I think is going to be said. It's going to be that voice. So anything that's predominant in our life is going to tend to draw us in, seduce us into thinking that it is more of a reality than anything else. So if we don't have any capacity to stand back and be able to observe those thoughts and that voice as something that is happening in us but is not us, then we're in trouble. Then we get lost. And then all those things, when you guys remember, for a number of weeks we were talking about awareness, and we were talking about that wheel of how it sort of descends from, you know, I'm afraid I'm doing it wrong, and I need to do it right. If I don't do it right, I'm going to be alone, and if I'm alone, I'm not going to be loved. And just sort of this descending wheel. We all have these emotional programs that we grew up with. And they were the ones that shout the loudest voices. They will interpret everything that's going on in our life according to those emotional programs. So that's just sort of an isness of the human condition. But the spiritual good news, yay, there's good news, thank you, is as that last voice, the voice of being, is that we can see these things coming and going. We don't have to necessarily judge them. We can sort of go, well, you know, I'm experiencing this feeling right now. I'm feeling sad. Okay, I'm feeling sad, or I'm feeling anxious, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling jealous, or whatever the feeling might be. There's a capacity to allow that to be and not run from it or hide from it or try to chase it out of our mind in some way, because to do so will only give it more. You know, that which we resist persists. You've heard it before. And so there is this engagement energy, this embracing energy that works for us so much better. Now, that doesn't mean that you make a nice little playpen for it and a nice nursery, and you nurse it into a full-grown character in your life. But it does mean that as you observe it, you meet it with compassion. You understand, oh my gosh, I'm being a human being again. Oh yes, I know that. Anger, that frustration, oh yeah, there it is again, it's here. Okay, well, what does it need? It probably needs a little acknowledgement right now, because it comes from us honestly, somewhere along the line, If I'm being, and sometimes I get puffed up. Does anyone get puffed up? A little grandiosity? Never, not, no. Never. Little grandiosity. So grandiosity comes up for me every once in a while. Grandiosity meaning like I think I'm big poop. And where does that come from? I'm not really a boastful person, but I realize when that rises up in me that there's a corollary to that, which was being extremely humbled at certain points in my life. And being basically invisible. And so I need to be seen. It's an old tape, it has nothing to do with the moment, but something triggers me and now I need to show up, in a big way. But, if you know me, away from this, I'm an insecure introvert. That's who I am. So I do this because somehow this translates into a gift that I was given, and it works. It works for me, it works for others. But I have my insecurities just like you have your insecurities. And they're there not to tell us who we are. They're there to tell us and reveal who we're not, but to be dealt with gently so that the energy in them can be dissipated by an acknowledgement, dissipating the energy of who you're not, which makes room for the true self to emerge. In physics, two things can't occupy the same space at the same time. So we need to, there's a letting go and then there's a letting God. There's a letting go of who we're not, and there's a acceptance, a willingness to embrace something greater. Okay. So who we are is what part of us that does not change. So when we say, am I my body? Does your body change? Yeah. And they say that millions of our cells in our body are changed or are renewed every minute, so that by the end of 7 years, we don't have a single living cell in our body that was here 7 years before. Did you know that? Isn't that cool? Cells come and go. Cells arise and die. But I seems to persist. So am I my body? No, evidently not. It's really good news as you get older, let me tell you. Neither are we our name. We can change your name, right? People do that all the time. Or our career. Or even our beliefs. Change your beliefs. Can't be who you are. What constantly changes is the me. But the I never changes. This is profound. It's a part of you that never changes. But if we identify with the me, if we identify the me with the I, we think the me is the I of us, the true self. That's when we suffer. The Buddhists know this very well, because the Buddhists say that all suffering is caused by the idea that we're attached to something and something changes. Now, if we're identified with that which is changeless, much better outcome. Grasshopper. Right? But if I'm identified with all these things that change, then I am going to be on this roller coaster of, I'm getting what I want, I'm happy. I'm not getting what I want, I'm sad. She loves me not. Don't we know this? And this is how the consciousness wave goes. If I'm identified with the me, and the me is constantly changing, then I'm going to have to be willing to ride this roller coaster of life for my sense of okayness. And you better hope that, something changes, because if you're down here in the pits, when you lose your money or you get a diagnosis, and this is where, that's who you are, on my body and on my relationship and on my money, and that's all gone, then for me to feel better, to get back up here, everything must change. And if you're what's wrong with me, then you better change. How's that working for you? It's not a real good relationship dynamic, is it? Like, you know what? I figured out why I'm so unhappy, guys. It's you. Would you mind changing? Because I'm identified with you as the source of my happiness right now, and it's just too much work to be responsible for shifting this. Why don't you change? Well, after your 7th relationship, you're a serial relationship killer by reputation. Someone says, well, you were identified. You thought that person was so powerful that they could affect your I. No, they could affect my me. Oh. Well, if they can't affect your I, maybe that's the place to hang out. I'll try it. Let's do a little practice. The image I want you to hold is of a wheel, like a regular wheel with spokes, okay? And at the center is a hub. And the hub of the wheel would be the place of absolute okayness. That would be your I, your big I, okay? In that place, the outrageous winds of fortune and misfortune can be blowing around, and it's not affecting you because you're in this I-ness, you're in your true self. It's like the eye of the storm in a sense, okay? So that's where I want you to be. But from that place, I want you to observe what the mind wants to do. It'll sit there for a while, but we want to get used to the dynamic so that we can begin to work with how the mind wants to go away from this centered place. So close your eyes, or whatever it is you do to imagine, and see yourself in the hub of this wheel. And notice that there are sort of spokes, sort of energetic spokes that move out away from this central place. And that all of these sort of represent fantasies that you could certainly engage if you chose, and you have, and you will. But they're sort of like ways of moving away towards something that you want, or a different reality. That's what these spokes represent. And the practice, the meditative practice here is, when you notice you're going away, is come back. Just come back. And once you're back, the admonition, the mantra is, stay. Stay here. Stay right here. Be here with us. In this hub is the only place we can be free. Because nothing is missing. It's the eternal, changeless center of being. It's the great witnessing dimension of being that's gone with you all through your life. It's always been there. It's never had a bad day. It's actually never had a good day. So I want you to review the last 24 hours now as you see what is the virtual reality that you've been occupying over the last 24 hours. Kind of scan your memory. What were the main wants or fears or preoccupations that you've had over the last day? Where have you, what little vectors have you taken and away from the center? And do this not with judgment, but with openness and honesty and a gentleness. Notice how you've been on your way somewhere or chasing after something. That's what the mind does. Maybe it's trying to get away from an experience or trying to manage things. But in all of that, were there many moments of presence where this moment matters as much as any in your whole life? That this is really it. This now moment. And try on this. That what we seek really is closer than we can even imagine. It's right here. It can never be anywhere else. Come to the hub of the wheel right now. Come back. And become aware of all the sounds and the sensations, and aware of the background of presence, of inner space. This subjective sense of what you are. You, the I, that sits in the seat of awareness. That you're not only aware of what's happening, but the now itself as a living, timeless inner space in which everything is happening. This God we seek, this divine, the Buddha, the enlightened nature we seek, that awareness is closer than we can imagine. This is the inner space of awakeness, of openness, right here and right now. And this is the practice for us. From here, we are familiar with the light that is behind every picture, every movie that we would make. But it's not the picture. It's not the happy ending or the dreadful scenes. It's the light. It's the wholeness of life. This is who you are. This is who I am. This is the work that brings us back. That Jesus called being in the world but not of it. We bring this hub consciousness with us back to this time, to this place, to our lives, So that with our eyes open, there is still a sensed and felt presence of this I that bears all things, that witnesses and is not diminished or made grander by what it sees or senses or experiences, but is your constant companion, your spiritual guide, your assurance that all is well. So for these teachings, for the paths, the myriad of paths that all lead to this hub, we are grateful. To the teachers who have navigated this journey and said, follow us, we are grateful. To be the light of the world is to live from the hub and hold no light back from expressing what you are. Through whatever, forever. Amen. Welcome back. So this is the journey. Someone mentioned to me in the first service, they said, one thing I really know is that when these characters show up, it's really important that I treat them with compassion and love, and which is a really good awareness. And that's actually what Dr. Goldstein is going to talk about next week. He's going to talk about empathy and compassion in dealing with ourselves and others. So this is not a, not one moral opportunity for our judgments to arise about how not well we're doing, which is so easy to go there. It's a loving, supportive, empathic journey of awakening.